Hello, everyone, and welcome to our channel. This is Caitlin and Daniel Rodriguez, aka Mr. and Mrs. LLC, and you guys in our very special series during this pandemic called "What Are They Doing?" Who are they?
So they is actually going to be our network. We're going to bring to you guys. These individuals are in various stages of being successful because a lot of times when you're trying to take that first step, that first leap in entrepreneurship or just whatever venture you're looking to do, you're in the first beginning stages.
Right.
And you're looking at someone who's far out there, all the way out there, like a late Kobe Bryant or a Michael Jordan or like a Bill Gates. And they just seem so far fetched out there. But we forget about the middle stages, the people that are in the middle that are still learning and you can learn from as well. So we're gonna bring those individuals to you. So stay tuned, get your questions ready because the episode's about to start now. Very successful in his career as a sales engineer, but that's not the only thing he does. He's very well-rounded, comes from a very great stock, especially family, knowing about the financial market, savings. I mean, this guy, if you look at his portfolio and his experience, you're like, man, you're only in your late 20s. Like, okay, you should be like a middle-aged man right now. But great background, and it shows. And so really, I'm gonna leave the floor to you, Sto. I want to hear a little bit about yourself. Who's Sto? Where'd you come from, and how'd you get to where you are right now?
Well, man, you set the stage. That's a lot to live up to. So I'm going to do my best, buddy. Well, hey, man, I'm a classic Midwestern boy. I grew up in Chicago, Illinois. I spent the majority of my elementary years there, but I did have the opportunity to travel out to Singapore and live as an expat for a few years because my dad, he got moved out there when I was 11. So I spent some years overseas, and that was really a big turning event for me because it exposed me to a whole new culture and just opened up my eyes to a world beyond a small Midwestern, suburban neighborhood. And from there, it just became a whirlwind of moving around and meeting different people. And I always say I find my inspiration from meeting other people and learning about their lessons. So I don't think of myself as a product of necessarily my own family, but a product of all the amazing people I've run into my life because of all the travel that I've done. So, but anyway, I got back from Singapore when I was 16. We moved back to Chicago. And again, from there, it just became year after year traveling to different places and spending time in new locations I'd never been. So after Chicago, got back my sophomore year, spent that year in Chicago with this high school, spent my entire year in Chicago, and then moved to Nashville, Tennessee, where my parents relocated for my dad's job and finished out high school there.
Okay.
So did spend 2 years there, but then moved up to Lehigh. Went to school at Lehigh University in Pennsylvania. Finished out 5 years of school there. Got my industrial engineering degree and my finance degree.
Okay.
And then started working for my current company, Ingersoll Rand, and they relocated me back to Nashville, Tennessee to start my career and did my training there. Spent 12 months on a phenomenal training program where they invested in me and made sure that I was well equipped to handle the life of a sales engineer. So basically, in a nutshell, what we do is we sell compressed air equipment. Ingersoll Rand is one of the largest providers of industrial equipment, and they were training me to be on the front lines, engaging with customers, and designing and speccing compressed air systems. Really exciting stuff, I know.
A couple engineers on the line, so I'm locked in. I'm like, okay, cool. I like this.
Shout out to the engineers, man. It's it's a fun job because it's a cool mix of interpersonal skills,
right?
Having to talk to people and talk to the likes of maintenance managers and facilities managers, but also putting my engineering degree to good use and talking about CFM, pressure, voltage, and how to design and really implement a complex and highly critical system in most manufacturing facilities. So from there, my company, they moved me down to Birmingham, Alabama, because we were struggling in that market. So after my training program, I took that next step up, leveled up a little bit, went down to a struggling market, primarily sold service contracts for the machines that we sold, and focused on my relationship with our core technicians who are out in the field servicing this equipment. They really carried their weight and helped me be successful there. So I spent 12 months in Birmingham, was offered a chance to promote and go out to Atlanta, Georgia, and become both a sales engineer who sold equipment and service. So kind of taking that next step up and being able to sell our full product range between both the equipment and service side. So that's where we met. You were just a prospect of mine at the time, right?
Right.
But it was really fun, and we got a chance to get to know each other. So that was I always like to say, when I meet a customer or meet a client, it's just about as much like what they can learn from me as I can learn from them. And it has to be a two-way street. So if I'm not providing value to them, then, I don't see a reason for me to talk to them, because I want to be able to provide value in every conversation that I go to.
Right.
And that may not necessarily mean talking about their system, but like asking how, what makes them tick, what's important to them. Really getting an idea for them as a person. Right.
So, looking at to bring the value part, was that something it sounds very, coming from, background that both have, very sales, right? That's really high level. So people think, oh, I'm just trying to sell. But it's really the key skill, and correct me if I'm wrong, is really to know the other person, right? To see what is their need. And even if it's not, compressed air, lacking of, but what is their needs? So how can you help them, right? So is that something you picked up while you're with Ingersoll, or, the training program, or is that something that you always knew that you liked to do, was that sales part?
That's a good question. I've read a lot about, I do a lot of self-help books, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I've heard these experts talk about providing value. And until I got to Ingersoll Rand, I had heard the theory, but I hadn't really experienced it myself. And so when I started working for this company and selling a product, it gave me a little more experience to root myself in what that means. And what I found is that I have been most successful when I provide value without the expectation of anything in return.
Right. Wow.
And that was really what propelled me, because I would give without expecting anything. I would want to give value. I would say, here's what I want to do. Here's why I want to do it. And oh, by the way, you buy from me, you don't buy from me, I'm good, man. I want to make sure you get what you need, and that I'm helping you in your role. If I can give you all the help that you need, then eventually I'm going to get what I want, but I want to make sure that, I separate myself from that. That's not an outcome I'm necessarily after. It's more about, how can I help you? How can I provide value to you? Whether you help me, whether you provide value to me, I'm good, man. I don't need anything in return. So
that's great. I like that. You said, no matter what, I want to make sure I brought the value to you. And I can speak from experience. You really did. I know I gave you a hard time, especially in that position, and, making you, not prove your worth, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, I'm working with 3-4 other guys, what made Sto stand out between everyone else? And it wasn't this product. I mean, even though he has great product, but it really was you as an individual. And I can speak to that. And if you need me put down a reference, man, I'm telling you, it was you that sold me, because I had that built that relationship, and you definitely helped me build the understanding of what my needs were and how you can solve. So kudos to you for sure, man. I really appreciate that. But so let me kind of dive into this part. So you relocate again. Now you find yourself, earlier, or the end of last year, you relocated to Minneapolis, the Twin Cities up there, right?
That's right.
And so that was, a little bit before the pandemic, and now the pandemic's happened. How's business for you on your 9-to-5 side? Like, is it consistent still? How did that look like for you during the pandemic?
We're steady, man. We've been lucky enough to be deemed as an essential business, and I appreciate you shouting out to that too. I mean, it's been tough for everybody. I'll be honest, this is the world we live in. We've had to furlough people. I myself was furloughed for 2 weeks. So my company put me on a temporary furlough. Thankfully, they brought me back, and we had a very detailed plan as to when I was going to be on furlough and when I'd come back. So my management team above me was very good in working with me on that plan just to alleviate some of the overhead costs. But, you know, unfortunately, we've had to let people go and due to and initiate reduction in force.
Right.
So
I'm just
that's
curious.
always sucks. I hate doing it. I've had to let someone go myself. That happened last week, as a matter of fact. That was a very challenging conversation to have, but thankfully the person I worked with was professional and handled it well and understood. But you know, man, I think my company is no exception to this, but every company is trying to figure out what this new dynamic is going to do to the world of business, and how it's really not what happens, it's about how companies respond. And we're just trying to carry the best possible attitude that we can, trying to keep business rolling, trying to be creative with deals, because a lot of our customers that we face and deal with, they're going through the same exact thing that we are. So we have to be sensitive to that. And I've found that it's actually a great chance to separate. And if we can be sensitive to their needs and understand the gravity of the situation, respond to those needs effectively, then our loyal customers will stay with us, and we'll actually be able to gain more ground with those called competitive accounts that we've had a tougher time breaking into. Because again, you know, our competitors are dealing with the same crisis that we are, so they're more likely to drop the ball. But if we're able to differentiate, provide that value, and really separate, then it gives us a chance to, you know, to break into new accounts. So it's not like the economy has come to a grinding halt. We're still doing business, but overall it's been dynamic, and we've had to be, you know, just respond on the fly to a lot of different things.
Be more responsive, and definitely I like that separation part. You know, a lot of times, you know, when slowdowns happen or pandemics, or I mean any tragedy, people, you know, they want to lick their wounds, right? And it's unfortunate. Like you said, some people, you know, didn't come back after being furloughed. You know, fortunately, you know, you were needed, so you came. They were allowed. You came back after 2 weeks, but at the same time, for those who didn't, you know, they're licking the wounds instead of saying, hey, you know, what can I do? This is a time I need to put extra effort in. This is a time where I need to separate myself, because it's going to pick back up. So I love that. That's, you know, it seems like one of your habits too, is that, hey, when the tough times come, I'm going to, you know, dig deeper, and we're going to get through this. So I'm just curious, during that 2 weeks of that you were furloughed, what did you do? Were some things you kind of did on the side? Was it just full, hey, I'm just gonna relax, or were you doing some more self-development?
Hell no, man. You know me better than that. No, I mean, I knew that 2 weeks was coming. I actually knew about a week in advance. So it wasn't that much time, but it still gave me enough time to plan out and schedule out. I knew I was not going to want to sit on the couch and watch TV and lick my wounds and eat ice cream. I knew I did not want to spend my 2 weeks doing that. I want to continue to get better. And it, you know, it was actually a blessing in disguise, because I got time. So I just bought a condo in Miami, and I'm starting to build my rental property portfolio. And that 2 weeks, I saddled up my car. I drove from Minneapolis to Miami over a 4-day period of time. Stopped to see family and friends along the way, just to make good use of that long trip, that long drive down. But for 2 weeks, I spent outfitting, ordering furniture, and really polishing up my new condo that I bought. That as soon as Miami opens back up and allows, you know, renters to come in and stay in an Airbnb, we're going to open that back up and start having clients come and stay there. So I spent my 2 weeks getting that bad boy ready to go. And that was a great project, because it took my mind off the fact that I was on furlough. It really instilled a sense of accomplishment in me for having done that. And I was assembling furniture every day, and, you know, installing cupboards and ordering stuff, and just getting just creating creating value for my future self. Because I knew that you know, that day is going to come where they are going to open back up, and we're going to have to list our condo on Airbnb. So it was a great 2 week period of time. Got a lot done. Also made some progress with ships and, you know, the container business that I'm working on. But really the primary focus was getting that condo Airbnb ready.
Right. So I know there's some things you know, you still in the works. is there anything you could talk about that other business that you were saying? Because I know you mentioned it. Like, what, anything you could speak about it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So for those who don't know, I'm very much a shipping container enthusiast. Me and my business partner, we started a company called Shipped Containers. Find us on Instagram, Shipped Containers. And basically our idea is to upcycle or convert or recycle, however you want to phrase it, used shipping containers into homes. So we're starting there. I mean, there's very much a business need for that because it's a low cost entry point. It actually, there are, for those who don't know, there are millions of these shipping containers that get disposed of in shipyards, across the world. And they're perfectly good, durable pieces of corrugated steel that with a few bump outs and some, punch a few windows and door slots in, you can convert into a home. And there's this growing movement called the tiny home community and movement that we've tapped into. So we're also getting that underway. We're building our first 2 ship container homes in Asheville, North Carolina. As a matter of fact, I expect a purchase agreement back from our vendor this week. We're going to sign on the dotted line and start construction, hopefully in the next month.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
So it's big news.
And how old are you again?
27.
Look at that, man. I just want to say, all these things going on. That's awesome, man. That's definitely out of, my network. I love, bringing different individuals, and, you definitely, we started talking on here, very technical, very engineer, this is what we're doing, but it's really cool to see what other people are doing. So I see a lot of success. I see a lot of, positive, and all I see off of you and feel off you, Sto, is ever since we first met was this positivity. Now, tell me, was there mistakes made along the way?
Oh my gosh, hundreds, if not thousands. Yeah,
well,
man.
What we say is the top two mistakes.
Top 2 mistakes. I don't know if I'd point to, top. There's nothing been like truly devastating, a mistake that I've made. It's really it's been a mindset shift for me. You talked about Jeff Bezos and some of these other really successful entrepreneurs who have quote unquote made it.
Right.
Well, I think where a lot of people get trapped is that they don't think they have the capability to become the next Jeff Bezos. There's like a limiting mindset.
Right.
So I guess a mistake that I've made that I wish I could overcome, and I'm still working to overcome, by the way, is I can get to that level. It just takes a certain level of hard work, a certain level of commitment. So that's a mistake. That's a flawed mindset that I'm working through on my own right now.
Right.
That I have to overcome, because it haunts everybody, in my opinion. It's hard to imagine, oh my gosh, Jeff Bezos has built an empire, worth billions of dollars. That must have taken an excruciating amount of work, and I could never do that. And what am I? I'm not that smart. There's so many distractions and limiting beliefs that can get in the way of achieving something like that. But it starts now. It starts today. I mean, what are you doing today to separate yourself from the others? To separate, what actions can you point to every day that will lead to the eventual outcome? So it's really, a lot of it is that cliche advice: keep the end in mind. But man, it rings true. And so again, I can't really point to a key mistake that I've made other than just the mindset shift. Right?
So I wanted to kind of break that down for a second, because I have a very similar take on it as well. But I love how you say, you're very optimistic, and you just read off you. And so I made a lot of mistakes, but it seems like you feel these more mistakes are not more of mistakes, but more lessons, right? You can say there's no
oh my gosh, yeah, totally
huge mistake that's going to stop me in my tracks, but you made adjustments, right?
Well said. Yeah, that's really the essence of it. Is there's no such thing as a mistake. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as failure. There's no such thing as a mistake. It's a learning lesson. How are you gonna respond to something that happens that maybe you weren't expecting? And that's really all a mistake is. It's an outcome that you didn't expect.
Right.
Call it a mistake. Call it a failure. That's it.
Right.
So how are you going to respond to it? And then how are you going to learn to it from it? And how are you going to use that to make you better for the next time? And, you know, I'm a reflective guy. I take a lot of time to think on how did I respond to certain situations during the day? How could I have been better? But I also try to reward myself. Like, what did I do well? So it's just that daily reflection that I try to give myself so I can continue to get better and continue to refine. You know, I preach this to my team that I manage, but it's like, how do we get 1% better every day? And I believe we get 1% better by making those mistakes or failures, because then we can use that to learn from them. And those are those micro mistakes that help us get better every day.
Right. It's like the mortar that keeps everything together.
Yeah.
The bricks are the successes, but then you forget about the mortar that keeps everything
That's
together.
right.
That's awesome, man. So you talk about, you know, different ways you make decisions. Do you have a process when making decisions? Obviously you have, you know, strict systems at work, but, you know, for your other ventures, you know, your real estate, your shipping container business, what type of processes do you follow when making decisions?
For me, I'm a ready, fire, aim kind of guy. Like, I rely on my instinct, and that's the truth. I mean, if it seems like the right thing to do, I'd rather execute and do it and see what that outcome is. And if it's the right thing, great, I move on. But again, if it's that mistake, then I take time to reflect on it and use it to help me get better. So the decision making, I have to say, is very instinctual. It's very like, does this feel right? Does this feel like a good move? Is it ethically the right move? Is it financially the right move? I mean, there are a number of factors that I consider when I make a decision. And if it's a big decision, keep in mind I have a business partner with ship containers, and I also have a separate business partner for the rental properties. So,
Right. So you have a
it's
team.
a big decision. Yeah, I always like to do a committee decision. Thankfully, you know, it's small enough where I'm just involved in a one-on-one partnership with my business partner, where it's not like we have to collect a big group of people to go into a board meeting. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
it's pretty easy, and we're not that big right now. So these decisions that we make are not going to be hugely groundbreaking by any stretch, you know, compared to other large companies, but they're big decisions to me and my business partners, because
Right.
that's where we are at in our maturation of the companies.
So I went into kind of sidebar real quick. I liked that comment you said, you know, ready, fire, aim. Just read the book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mindset. Is that where you got it from, or did you get it from somewhere else? You just picked it up?
I don't know where I heard that, to be honest, dude. I heard it a long time ago, and it's just stuck with me ever since, because it so perfectly captures like the way that I go about my day. I mean, you know, I drive some people crazy about it because I don't overanalyze.
You're action oriented, man. You like, let's go.
I don't overanalyze. Like I piss, because I get it. Like, there are some people who like to analyze situations before they act. Me, I'm just not that way. I'm like, let's execute, let's take action, let's go. And let's see how the market responds. If the market responds in a negative way, okay, we'll learn from that.
Right.
But
would you say that's one of your greatest strengths then?
Yes, I would say so. It's just I don't feel there's, at least in my point in my career and where I'm at with my business, there's no sense in me being slow and methodical to make decisions. I like to move quickly. I like to learn quickly. The faster I make decisions, the more I learn and the more I can improve. That's where I'm at. Now, if I build these businesses up, and all of a sudden dollars start becoming a lot more magnified, and every decision I make has a greater financial impact. Like, let's say I move up within Ingersoll Rand, I become the CEO. Yeah, I can't make those sweeping decisions and just say go. Like, there's a lot more of a process that I need to follow, because I'm the CEO. I'm impacting thousands and thousands of people at that point. Whereas right now, I have a team of 8. I mean, if I make a decision and I say go, and there's a lashback or whiplash, then I can manage 8 people and say, okay, we made the wrong decision. What did we learn? And how are we going to get better the next time?
Adjust.
I can't necessarily do that thousands of people across the world.
Right. I like it. So now a lot of people are thinking like the whole CEO motion side. So tell me, man, retirement, what does retirement look like for you?
Early.
Early.
No, I mean, I think I'll work to the day I die, but retirement looks for me, man, I'll be honest with you. I think there's always a piece of me that will want to work in the corporate world. You know, I eventually want to have the experience of being an executive, what call it a CEO or a CFO, sitting in an executive seat at one point for a large major corporation like Ingersoll Rand. But retirement, what that looks like to me is making my money work for me. Whereas I'm making money in my sleep, I can wake up and I don't have any 9 to 5 true commitments because I have at least a healthy savings built up, or I have so many automatic businesses that are making money and generating revenue for me that I don't necessarily need to manage, or that I've outsourced.
Right.
That I can live the lifestyle that I want and give back in a way that I see fit without necessarily having to commit a ton of time to a 9 to 5, very structured, rigid job.
Right. So let me ask you this. So because you had a portion of that as well already, right? You know, you have some form of that passive income that's coming through.
Yes.
The automatic. Did that help with knowing, you know, when you were furloughed, let's just say crisis hit even harder in 2 weeks, was now turned to 4, 5, 6 weeks. That passive income that kind of eased you a little bit.
100%. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And I also have a healthy nest egg stored up. I mean, my personal philosophy is I keep a minimum of $10,000 in my checking account. As soon as it dips below $10,000, that's when I start to get a little nervous. I call it 3, 4, or 5 months worth of rent, right? That's my runway that I give myself. And then I like to keep in a checkings or a savings account that's very liquid for me at all times. But
I can vouch for that. He's not fudging any numbers. No, this man's the real deal.
That's right. So that's just my personal comfort level. But that passive income with my, rental properties, and I also have a few mutual funds and hedge funds that I'm invested in that I know are doing pretty well and that are beating the market right now. So despite the pandemic, that gives me the reassurance that I'm not going to act into a catastrophic life event where I can't pay next month's rent.
Right.
I know that I always have a security blanket. It's like you want to have the plan A mindset at all times, but you want to keep that like just a little piece of your brain focused on that plan B. Like you got to have a little bit of plan B, but almost forget about plan B so you can focus on plan A and go on the offense.
Right. You don't have to think of it as a whole separate plan B, but more like Band-Aids, right? Even the A team's got to rest for a second,
That's
right?
right. That's right. Yeah. And even they got to have, I always say, Tom Brady, man, he needed a backup in the Super Bowl, dude.
Exactly.
Hey, something happens, man. You got to have a backup.
Absolutely, man. So I know our time is limited right now, but I'm curious, as you did a lot of quotes and different things, and you talk about self-development. What are some things that you recommend people to read, and what are you reading right now?
I recommend, several books, man. I mean, the list goes on, but if you're in sales, there's one book that I highly recommend because I think it's the most brilliant way to go about sales, and that it's called Winner's Dream by Bill McDermott. He's my personal and business idol. He was once the CEO of SAP. Now he's the CEO of ServiceNow. Phenomenal dude. Just has the best mindset when it comes to sales and and providing value to clients. Another big author that I'm into, and he's becoming more of he's getting a lot of publicity, is Jocko Willink. He writes the book Extreme Ownership. I'm about to read that book because I've heard so many good things, but I've listened to a ton of Jocko on podcasts. Absolutely love that man and love what he stands for. And right now I am reading The Ascent of Money. It's a narrative on how money came to be, starting with the basic bonds when governments were issuing bonds, and how we went from the barter system to paper money. That's a really cool book too. It gives a cool background. It's more of like a narrative than it is, call it a biography of money. It's more of a narrative of how it came to be. And the author shares a lot of cool anecdotes for situations where
sounds
money
like The Wealth
involved.
of Nations. It sounds like, have you read The Wealth of Nations?
No, I have not read that book.
Definitely read that. It sounds very similar to that. Wealth of Nations is oh man, I think that was 1700s, 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
Don't quote me.
I've heard the book. I've just never read it.
Yeah, very similar. It's thick. It's like 600 pages, but
Okay.
it's definitely a good read. It talks about it. It's like almost like a history book narrative, kind of like we were saying.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I'll add it to the reading list.
Yeah, perfect, man. Well, I know we got one more minute. You gotta get headed out here. One last thing. What's the best advice that you could have to someone, or you would tell someone, or even maybe your 10-year-old self, right? You know, what to focus on, especially to be prepared when you're ready to make that jump, that leap into, you know, entrepreneurship or business or something.
Learn to love failure, man. I mean, that's the lesson that resonates with me the most. And that ties nicely into take action, execute, right? Like don't spend your life thinking or wishing what if.
Right.
Just do, take action. You're inevitably going to fail. And I've learned I hated failure in my late teens and early 20s. I hated it. I couldn't stand the idea. That's why I never approached girls. That's why I never thought to start my business. I hated it. But my relationship with failure has become a friendship. It's a friendship now. Like I almost embrace it. I welcome it. I'm like, I want to fail because I view it as an opportunity to learn.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that really has been a huge paradigm shift for me. And it's unlocked my world to go out there and achieve the potential that I know I'm capable of achieving, because failure is not my friend. So that's by far the best advice that I can give.
I love that, man. I've heard it in so many different forms, but the way you said it, make failure your friend. I love it. Learn how to love failure. That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time. I know you got to head out of here, but thank you for, you know, the time we did have. And I think that was great value that you dropped on us. Again,
appreciate you, brother.
Like I said, I'm glad to know you. Every time I get around you, even though you're miles away right now, I feel the energy. I love it, man.
Good stuff, man. Hey, invite me back. I love this. I love what you're doing, man. Keep up the good work.
I appreciate it, man. Definitely will. Definitely after your next condo, or if you got something new, I'll hop you on. We'll talk about something specific, maybe just real estate.
Anytime, man.
All right, man. Well, you take it easy. I appreciate you.
Be safe, dude. See you.
See ya.
Yeah.